Well, it's 7 o'clock. It's the 22nd of December 2021. This is Voice of the Cantor, our 7th program in the second series tonight with Cantor Faith Steinsnyder. I'm Russell Grossman. I'm one of the executive at the European Cantors Association. And just before I introduce our interviewer this evening, Alex Klein, let me tell you a little bit about the European Cantors Association for those who may not have come across it. The European Cantors Association is an independent organization. We're established in the United Kingdom in 2012. We reach across the spectrum of Jewish worship to ensure that the unique music of Jewish prayer continues to enhance synagogue services for generations to come. We arrange cantors conventions along Orthodox lines in the UK and in European cities. Our academic wing presents international conferences on the music of Jewish prayer in partnership with universities around the world. ECA also presents Zoom talks such as this, the Voice of the Cantor, and we do so by tackling some of the burning issues in the cantorial world through Voice of the Cantor. Today, our interviewer is Alex Klein. Alex needs little introduction to many of you. He's the director of the European Cantors Association. He's always been passionate about the music of the synagogue. He was born in London. He studied at Jews College, attending Reverend Brill's cantorial classes. He settled in Manchester, where he brought significant Jewish artists and cantors to the UK for concert tours. He's been a leading figure in synagogue music in the UK, lecturing widely and heading the Jewish Music Institute's synagogue music section. He's now, as I said, the director of the European Cantors Association. Alex, over to you.
Thank you, Russell, for the introduction, and welcome everybody to what is going to be a wonderful, fascinating evening and something I've been looking forward to for quite a long time. Welcome, Faith, and it's lovely to see you. And I would like everybody to know about you, your life, your story, and history of being one of the early female cantors in the business, and how you started. And it must have been frightening in those days. But with reputation, beauty of soul, beauty of your neshama, beauty of your voice, wonderful teachers that helped you. You are a superstar in the world of Jewish music and the cantorate, and according to your students, an absolutely fabulous teacher. So welcome. We want to take you back to your beginnings, and I believe you were born in South Florida, in the Miami area. What was your childhood like? Where did you grow up? Did you go to Hebrew school, etc.? Can you tell us a little bit about your upbringing, your family, and your background? Was it musical, etc., etc.?
Sure. My family loves music and loved music. The 4 of my grandparents were Yiddishists, and they loved cantorial music. I'm from Philadelphia, and I grew up down in Miami. Dad moved us down there when I was about 2 or so. He was a urologist. So I guess urology and South Florida kind of go hand in hand. Sorry, I'll try to keep it clean. So I grew up in a family that loved being Jewish, loved the holidays. We weren't, I think, a shul-going family as much weekly, certainly not daily. But so it gave me something to discover as I grew older, how wonderful Shabbat could be. The more fully it is embraced, the better it gets. So, and you get a chance to do it every week. So growing up in Miami, we were in Beth Torah congregation, which other people have called a hotbed of chazanut. It sounds a little dangerous when you put it that way, but 1,100 people who otherwise didn't get along would sing like crazy on Sabbath and festivals and holy days. And when I got into the adult services, I got to hear the real action with the chazan and the congregation, the power of the kahal, the the voice of the Baal Tefillah, the wonderful Baal Koreh. I never knew that Torah reading could be like that. So the older I got, the more I appreciated Reverend Adler, who read Torah so magnificently. I never got on the track that the boys did in terms of learning to be a shaliach tzibur, because yeah. So but my bat mitzvah,
that's what I want to
memorable.
talk about.
Cousin Yaakov Renzer, of blessed memory, had such a sweet voice, and he would make cassette tapes back in the day, for those of you who remember that technology. And I would take the cassette tape, as everyone else would, and the girls all learned a chapter of Shir HaShirim. He sounded so, your bat mitzvah will be beautiful. And so I would listen to his introduction to my chapter 3 of Shir HaShirim every time I listened to the tape, otherwise it's, and then you miss what you need. So I listened, your bat mitzvah will be so beautiful. And I learned from that you could put in some positive reinforcement ahead of time, and it might just be beautiful. So But
you spent summer camps learning music, learning your bat mitzvah, when other people were playing around and kibbutzing and doing various things that boys and girls do. So why did you have such so intense about learning the music and what you wanted to do? What made you go that way, take that path?
That was the expectation of Beth Torah congregation, that we, boys and girls, would be prepared 6 months beforehand, and the rest could be just working on your Devar Torah or your words of wisdom or whatever you wanted to share with the congregation. For me, it was a speech about Jewish women. So for Cantor Renzer, the pressure was on for every young person who went to summer camp, not unlike today, to make sure that they kind of knew it either by the time they went to camp or had a summer program. So I didn't go to a Jewish camp. I attended Interlaken, the National Music Camp. So I was involved in music talent exploration and theater and studying piano and doing all those things, but there wasn't like Yiddishkeit or anything going on. There was rest period though. So I had I think I had an ear plug that went into the little jack. Your bat mitzvah will be beautiful. And so that's what I heard during rest period. And I learned chapter 3. I learned Lecha Dodi, I learned Kiddush. What else was on that tape? Not too much. Haftarah Brachot were on that recording. And that was all for a Friday evening bat mitzvah, because girls were never Shabbat morning. Girls weren't called to the Torah. The first time I read Torah was at Hebrew Union College, Jewish Institute of Religion, in front of the faculty. So no pressure.
So there wasn't any of the women's minyanim or, so did you find it like you were on the outside looking in and you wanted to get on the inside?
I didn't know that I could ever get inside. The inside track that I had is that my mother had illustrated the rabbi's book on Chassidut, the faith of a Chassid. So my mother and the rabbi, Rabbi Max Lipschitz of blessed memory, were very, very close. He would come to our sukkah. There would be much. My parents had permanent seats in the fifth row. So there was a relationship there. And in my senior year of high school, my parents got divorced, but the seat was paid for. So I sat next to my mother in the fifth row and heard the adult service in my senior year of high school. And who was the chazan at that point? Chazan Yaakov Ben Sion Mendelssohn, otherwise known as Jack. And
So we've got the same friends in common.
I was overwhelmed. As an opera lover, I was overwhelmed. As a Jew, I was overwhelmed. The 1,100 cantankerous people were singing like one. I was floored. And
Well, tell me about Jackie, because he wrote something special for you, and I want to know, how did that come about? Because that's very, very important for somebody like Jackie Mendelssohn, you know, in esteem, to write for little Faith Steinsnyder this wonderful thing, which is just for you. So how did that come about? I mean, you must have been something special, and he recognized your talent and then helped you to enrich your musical abilities, etc., etc. So tell us about it.
many years before the Mendelssohn Maariv, there was no acceptance of women into Cantor's Assembly, the mostly conservative organization of Chazanim. That's a worldwide organization. I started attending Cantor's Assembly conventions because Cantor Mendelssohn would speak of nothing else. Grossinger's this and Grossinger's that, and Grossinger's and hundreds of cantors and Sfirat HaOmer, and this is happening there and that's happening there. And I thought, my gosh, based on my experience in my senior year of high school, it's like God was in this place, and I did not know. I didn't know how powerful Jewish music could be. So I wanted to save up my money and go to convention. Years later, after Cantor's Assembly accepted women, and I had studied through Hebrew Union College, they asked me to lead a real service.
Wasn't it the Verbanda those days? Was it before the CA? Because I remember those conventions in Grossinger's where you rub shoulders with Ganchoffs and the Kusevitskis and people of that ilk. And it for me, that was, as a teenager, that was the bee's knees. I saved up so much money to go to this convention in Grossinger's, not just by meeting Jenny Grossinger or meeting the family, but with these wonderful cantors. I mean, was there anybody particularly besides Jackie that influenced you and made you turn that corner to become a cantor?
The Ganshoffs, Chazan Moshe Ganshoff and his wife Peggy, adopted me they would say like a child, and I would say like a grandchild. We were very close. And I was also close with Max Wahlberg, who was my family's cantor from Philadelphia. And my uncle was his doctor. I digress. So, there were a lot of little cantors. Very few of them were tall. They were kind of short people and sometimes rotund. And they would all be coming up into each other's faces and singing. Like, do I know you? It's like the international language of Chazonis or something was spoken there. And it just happened for 5 straight days into the night. So
fabulous, yeah. I remember it well. Yeah.
Like for me, it was 1:40 in the morning at the late night, where
I remember
Gildar played for me.
I remember going to the same apartment Moshe Ganshoff lived, and what he would do is, Alex, I want to sing something for you. I've just composed this. You remember how he used to go on and in that voice, and you would listen, and it would be such an experience. And later on, when he was getting older, I would phone him and he would sing down the phone to me something he just composed. But he was continually doing this. And people don't realize to be in somebody's company like that has a tremendous positive influence. It's inside your soul. I mean, do you feel the same way?
The importance of sharing with his students was so moving. Moshe Ganshoff was not it wasn't just about him. It was about the art of the Chazan moving forward in time. And it was different the way he worked with Chazan Mendelssohn, than the way he worked with Chazan Mizrahi, than the way he worked with Chazan Lamb, and the way he worked with me. I couldn't do the things he did. I would cry. It took a long time for me to figure out how to sing in the first place because I wasn't a singer at all. I just liked cantors. I wanted to be near cantors, and look what happened. I mean, this is what happens when you hang out with the cantors too long. You become one. So I couldn't imagine any finer group of people to call my colleagues. And it's been just an incredible life. And an
Actually,
incredible
it makes a very good cue to play our first piece of music. And we're going to listen to Cousin David Kusevitsky and somebody else. And I want you to tell us about it.
Love
How wonderful. Please tell us how this came about and the story behind it.
Because I had rabbinical dispensation to be in the junior choir, even in my first year of college, I had come home, and it was the Hillel Shabbos. Beth Torah congregation had, along with Cantor Jacob Mendelson, had invited Chazan David Kusevitsky to be the guest Chazan. It was Shabbat Mevarachim HaChodesh, Rosh Chodesh benching, and I earned the Mishe Asa Nisim solo, much coveted, and the year before it had been the Hillel Shabbos had been Moshe Genshaw, but I didn't. It was also Shabbat Mevarachim HaChodesh, but I was not the Mishe Asa Nisim kid then. The thing is it's on YouTube and it doesn't say my name, so I'm kind of glad because a number of people have listened to it, maybe who wouldn't have listened had they known it was a female singing Mishe Asa Nisim.
I don't know, because the person who put it out, I know very well, Akiva, and I know him extremely well, and we send him stuff, and he has a very fine collection of very rare material. So he put that out only recently, and then I put it on the ECA Facebook page, and then you told me it was you. So that's how we got to know, which is absolutely incredible. So where did the next steps take you within your career? So from there, you were solo, you were in a choir, you sang with Moshe, witnessed with Moshe Ganchoff, and then Jackie Mendelson wrote for you and helped you and to increase your studies. Did you then go as a senior to HUC or JTS or one of the colleges? How did you get into your next stage of being a chazan, a cantor?
I took a left turn and I went to Indiana and attended Indiana University. I wanted to direct opera. So I studied German and French and Italian and music theory and music history and stagecraft and sang in the opera chorus and took voice lessons. But I got worse and worse as a singer. And even though I didn't start out to be a singer, I knew things were kind of getting worse and worse. So I knew at that point that Hebrew Union College was accepting women. Cantor Barbara Ostfeld had graduated in 1975, which was the year I graduated high school. I spent a couple of years at Indiana, and then I transferred to Hebrew Union College in New York City, 2 blocks from the Metropolitan Opera House. So if I skipped class once in a while to go to a rehearsal at the Met, I've made it up in the last 3 decades teaching at HUC and JTS and the Academy and everybody else. So if people cancel on me, I guess it all comes around.
So one of your teachers must have been a wonderful lad from England called Izzy Goldstein.
Chazan Israel Goldstein, Chazan Israel Alter Goldstein, was an incredible coach, an amazing workshop teacher. And then he was the one who invited me to come onto the faculty as the first woman to teach Chazanut at HUC. So he believed in me before I believed in me.
Was there a lot of resistance? Were females cantors able to get positions in, at that time, either the Reform or the Conservative movement, or was there, hang on a minute, it's not like it is today. We're talking about 30 years on, which things are completely different to what they were when you first started. So how frustrating was it, and who helped you along the way?
Frustrating. What makes you think it was frustrating?
Because I know the feeling.
My colleagues supported me. They made me feel that what I was doing was important and vital. It was easy to get employment in a Reform congregation. um, and it was a great thing too. Um, I served some of the largest congregations in the country, and it was great to have a music budget. What can I tell you? Um, Great to have 5 different choirs, all those things. Um, it, as a conservative chazan, I could not find my way into the right congregation for me. You know, it's mazel, it's timing, it's a lot of things, it's connections. I was the first runner-up for a number of interviews, so congregations who were persuaded to at least hear a woman on the, you know, on
But
as
how
a,
can you be a runner-up? You're one of the top 10 Jewish women singers in the world. So you
well,
know, and therefore those accolades are something that you earn. You don't just get. I mean, I first heard you 1998, Carnegie Hall, at the Cantors Convention or the CA Convention. I still have, if anybody wants to see the program, and I was staying at Sol and June Zim's, and they were doing something in Central Park. It was a magnificent concert in the park and something they had at home. And Sol said to me, "You've got to listen to this girl. She's a wow, she's going places, and she's going to do Rosa de Shabbos." And I said, a girl to sing Rosa de Shabbos with the feeling, the understanding of the words. I've never heard it before. He said, Alex, just listen and you'll see. So I listened, and boy, oh boy, was he right. So I think I want to play our listeners a version of Rosa de Shabbos with another very, very good friend of yours and mine, Joseph Ness, who's a brilliant arranger, and it really such a dear friend, and extremely humble as a person. I've worked with him on the Night Project, you know, the work of Label a Glance, and you know, he's transposed the whole of his music, etc. But we're now going to listen to Rosa de Shabbos with an orchestra conducted and arranged by Joseph Ness, with you singing. So please enjoy, and let's sit back and listen.
Kudish Abrichu Echad, Le'ela lo
All I can say is bravo. It absolutely magnificent. I had to play it. It gets me, and your interpretation is so moving, and the orchestration is so right. It's just absolutely perfect. You know, Joseph is an expert, and it wasn't overbearing, and it was just beautiful, and it married together. Absolutely, absolutely. It's wonderful. I want to go on to the next chapter. Matti Lazar, The Western Wind. I mean, that was a bit part of your life. And then again, you seem to end up going back with Matti, you know, and doing various different projects, which is wonderful, because with the Zamir and what he's achieved, kol hakavod to him, it's excellent. And you being part of that is also wonderful. So can you tell me about the collaborations and how you got involved and where it's going to and anything in the future happening?
Ooh, well, I hope that the North American Jewish Choral Festival continues every summer forever and ever. It's kind of like a brigadoon, you know, it appears out of the mists and then it disappears again, and unless you were there, you don't know that it exists. So I would love for the rest of the world to know that Jewish music lives chorally at the North American Jewish Choral Festival from Rossi till today. And pieces are being written and commissioned all the time. I got involved with Matti Lazar because I would sing in a pickup group he had called Sela that traveled and sang for cantorial concerts. There was one big concert down in South Florida in West Palm Beach and then in Miami with really the heavy hitters, Yaakov Motzen, great Alberto Mizrahi, heavy hitters, David Bagley, singing the classics, Tzvi Aaroni. These were masterful chazonim. And
did they sing with Matti's choir? So they all sang with the mixed choirs and the voices, Absolutely fabulous.
That was a long, long time ago. So I got um, comfortable, that's not the right word, used to the expectations of being a choral singer. And it was an incredible honor to be included in the Mantua Singers with programs over a number of years, not just the music of Salomone Rossi, but others, and incredible programs that Matti had put together, this group of mostly cantors to sing Rossi. So would it be different if we knew what we were singing about? So
And doesn't it actually break the rule when people say that the youth of today are not interested in Jewish liturgy or synagogal music? It's completely blown away, because if you look at what Matty's done from not only all over the USA, Canada, and Israel, there's no reason why there should be this negativity that says that kids, the youth of today, don't want to sing in these wonderful groups. I think music is so powerful, which you've proved, which Matty's proved, and other people. So if you had maybe a message to give to the world out there about our wonderful liturgy and how we continue it, what would you say to the next generation? What would you say to the negative people?
well, it's never what it used to be. It's never what it was, whatever it is. The love of prayer modes, the love of Nusach, the love of the Sinai, as if it came from Sinai, or alt, ancient melodies that are woven into the Jewish music of ours like a musical calendar, so that you would know what time of day it is, what time of year it is. All those skills of knowing how to be literally in the moment, Jewishly, musically, connects our people through time and space. So those skills, Torah reading, chanting prophetic texts, weekday Nusach, as simple as it is, it's so important.
So should they start at Hebrew school and or in the synagogue? Where do they start?
Right, you're right. They need to be shul Jews. They need to be welcomed into wherever there is. And if it's a Reform congregation, they may be more comfortable, well-versed with a guitar leading this way, congregational melodies, as opposed to a cappella or with Meshorerim. In the cantorial schools, they teach all the different styles and all the different modes and all the different things that one would need, all the skills one would need to be a successful chazan. These days, it's different than it was 50 years ago or 100 years ago. The teaching skills, the administrative skills, the Zoom skills, those who are otherly capable. There are so many different ways of teaching. There's no end to what we can do as facilitators of communal worship, as song leaders in the most sacred way.
Do you think every synagogue, whatever the branch of Judaism, should have somebody who's responsible for the music of that synagogue, so they can teach, liaise, and do the right things for the betterment of the congregations in general? What do you think about that as an idea of moving forward?
It's a great loaded question. And who is the director of music? Sometimes it is the rabbi. Many of my colleagues submit cue sheets to their rabbis during the week, asking permission to sing whatever.
But do you need permission should you have permission from the rabbi? Because the rabbi deals with the rabbi. The pulpit is that or the omud is that of the chazan or the cantor or the shliach zibor, and that his domain. The rabbi deals with the halakhic questions, and then communally they do together what should be done for their communities. Should that be, isn't that sacrosanct and sacred?
It ought to be, but it's not. So the trust of a congregational board of directors in imbuing that shaliach tzibur, that chazan, that director of music, with the power to make those decisions and to be the musical luach of that kahal. That's something that I look for in successful congregations, where the chazan is the director of music and can affect great moments from week to week. You know, I think we've spoken about this, you've spoken before about the, you know, how meticulous the planning results in a inspirational service. The humdrum or the ordinary or the as usual, maybe not so much. There's no astonishment. There's no radical amazement. There's no, you know, that I believe in congregational singing, I do, but there's got to be a moment of inspiration and another moment of inspiration and take me where I don't think I am going.
Well, you were taken where you didn't think you were going, and you got there, and you're an inspiration to many people. I mean, as a teacher, as a lecturer, as somebody who taught Mifgash Musical and the thing that you're involved, because I want you to talk about that. I mean, everywhere, everybody who talks about you or has come across you in learning or in governing or socially, we all say the same thing. Your neshama is special, b'li'ayin hara, and what you give from the heart, and because you give from the heart with the knowledge that you have gotten from your mentors and other people, you're able to pass it on the door from generation to generation. And that's what I think your pupils, I know your pupils get, your students get, and that is something very, very special. It's not a secret, there isn't a secret. Baruch Hashem, you are blessed, and that is that is something special. I don't think it's, I don't know if you agree with me or don't agree with me, it's, the cantorate is not a vocation, it's a calling. And if you haven't got that calling, I don't see why you should be a cantor. What do you think of that statement? I mean, it's a huge statement, it's loaded, but that's what I believe. And when you have your students go through that process, can you tell if they are going to make it or break it?
They're all called for a reason in different ways. And, you know, I do feel that anybody who makes it to the cantorial schools has a commitment to perpetuating the music of the people of Israel. It's too difficult to get in. You have to be committed already. So for those who certify as cantors, who train on the outside, who apprentice themselves, God bless them all, because everybody's got a different path to the cantorate. There's some cantors' kids, rabbinical children who've grown up to be chazanim, and some cantors' kids who've grown up to be rabbis. That Max Wahlberg of blessed memory used to ask me, why would I want to be a chazan when I could be a rabbi? And why would I want to be a rabbi? Cantor Wahlberg, I never could call him Max. He just felt there was more power in the rabbinate. And he was right. But okay, it's too late now, or maybe it isn't too late now, but I don't know if you have to, you know, become a rabbi to be a vessel of knowledge that can keep our people singing into the next generation. I think.
So what are your aspirations? What, what's still on your bucket list that you want to do or would love to do to take yourself forward? What is something that is special to you? Tell us.
To enjoy more music being created for all the diverse people that there are. I mean, nobody has the voice of a Yossele Rosenblatt. God bless his memory, and how inspiring it is to listen to Yossele Rosenblatt and Pierre Pinchik and Leib Glantz and Moshe Ganshoff. My gosh. And, you know, if I listened just to the male cantors, I would say, well, where is my voice in this? So it's in finding the new voice that's just as valid. How do we do that? What is validity? What is authenticity? Is it how you say the Hebrew or the Aramaic? Is it how the Hebrew comes out of your mouth? What is that authority with the liturgy that has to happen?
Well, yeah. Do you find that you mentioned all these wonderful male chazonim from the Golden Age, and the music obviously was written for male tenor, baritone, bass parts, and the choral parts were in the SATB, so they weren't written for women. Do you find that because of this, you have people like Beth Stiles and Laurie Ackers and other people who are producing synagogal music to combat the fact that women need something written in their key to be able to be sung in cheder, in synagogue? Or does that digress from what the liturgy should be and take away the nusach?
I think it just adds to the bouquet that we have going on now. And it's a bigger bouquet than we ever had. So not all the flowers go with each other all the time. You know, there are different styles, no pun intended. But we need everybody to be as creative as they can be. I look to Cantor Mendelssohn, and I look to myself to rework some of the classics. For me, maybe with a touch less repetition or a touch less coloratura or a step lower in the key, so that there isn't a tessitura of pain for the listener and the singer. Not the male voice doesn't work the same as the female voice, but expression is expression. You know, my husband, Cantor David Perper, likes to say, stay in the express lane, keep expressing. So you got to keep expressing, whether it's a contemporary piece by anyone. I mean, men and women are writing in the contemporary style. And I mean, I look to somebody like Robbie Solomon.
Yeah, brilliant.
Pop style, but also he's a chazan, and he knows how to be chazonical.
I love his Yoribon Olam. I love his Yoribon. Unbelievable. Yes. You know, Robbie I know, and Safam I know, and they're friends of mine, and I've had them over here in the UK for a couple of concerts. Brilliant musicians, wonderful arrangers, and again, Matti Lazar, and the festivals and the music and so on and so forth. So
I look to my friend Dr. Michael Isaacson, who's
great.
He's still composing very exciting pieces, and many of them in Hebrew and English, which helps. You know, this bilingual.
I would love for our next again Cantors Convention for somebody to write something special that we can prepare it and premiere our convention, something new, something vibrant that everybody can get together at the convention, and in the gala concert at the end, from workshops and everything, sing together, because boy oh boy do we need music. It permeates the heart. What we've been through in the last 2.5 years, you know, thank God for Zoom, but Achdus is so important, and I think it's a way of getting everybody together, man, woman, child, from all the branches of Judaism, to come together and sing praise to God in the way that we know how. Something modern, something apparent and something beautiful. So that is what I want to give as my gift to the world. And I want people to come, help me do it, be part of it. That's what I would love to do. I'm not getting any younger, and I want to see something beautiful and creative come out of something with people standing together side by side, because Am Echad, we are one people, and that is the important thing. And that's your message to everybody, your teachers' messages, and it comes out so beautifully, because we're all doing the same business, we're all doing the same thing. We're all hoping for a better world, we're all hoping for peace, and we're all hoping that through our prayers and through our understanding and emotions, we can bring heaven to earth and earth to heaven. And that's, thank you for doing your job. Thank you for being part of it. And it's such a pleasure speaking to you. And I think we all enjoyed it. And if anybody would like to ask you some questions, I'm sure you will answer them. And I'll leave that in Geraldine's capable hands. Thank you so much, and God bless you.
Thank you so much, Alex, and thank you, Faith. We've been illuminated, and and really it's been a great pleasure. I'm sure that there are people who'd like to make comments or talk to you or ask questions. Please, who would like to say something to start with? Or Faith, do you want to say anything yourself? I'd be interested to know what you think can make the cantor on the bima more effective in the community, and not the victim, but the leader of the music in the synagogue.
More effective in the community is a 7-day event. There are so many ways to take ourselves on a musical mitzvah tour, visiting those who are in need of memory, singing to them. There's no end to the amount of opportunities for all generations within any community. If the cantor or the chazan or the music director or the cantorial soloist wants to, it's a question of energy, and you can make a choir, a children's choir with a few children, and that will grow to great proportions. So
no, I think I'm totally with you there. I think I'm going one step back to say, what will empower you to do that? What position do you need to have in order to be what you're saying? I'm thinking, how is the position of the cantor scene in a community today, and are they being employed to do that job?
We can do a lot more to sound our own shofar on our behalf. There has to be a little bit more blatant self-promotion of Jewish music in a humble, modest way, in a joyous, enthusiastic way. Why is it that I got to go to Grossinger's and have these great experiences? How do I bring that enthusiasm to the rest of the world? Grossinger's closed. And it was expensive in the first place. So how do that enthusiasm for making music in a Jewish venue? I think the North American Jewish Choral Foundation does that. Zamir does that. Now the young ones get to have another group. They get to have another group. There are hundreds of Jewish choral singers now on the planet that didn't exist a few years ago. This is a golden age. So how do we promote it better? And then our community will stand by us and say, look what we have. But we have to make the product first.
Thank you.
I've noted Joseph Ness is with us, and Joseph is a friend of both of ours, and he has a very successful musical scheme going, teaching orchestrations, new music, promoting different things, and he's the musical director, Chazan, of his synagogue. So can I ask, Joseph, how does it work for you doing what you do in your synagogue?
Well, I was interested, first of all, Faith, always great to hear your voice and see you and Alex and all those wonderful friends of mine on this program. I firmly believe that I wanted, there's a place in choral music for choirs to, just join together in comradeship and just sing together. But I was certainly interested in that, but much more, and to give choral members and instrumental musicians the chance to really play music that's challenging, and not only Jewish music, other music, so that when they would play a Beethoven symphony or a Stravinsky violin concerto or whatever it was, that for the choral people, if they did the Brahms German Requiem or the Symphony of Psalms, Stravinsky, that the Lewandowski would really sound so much better. And I found that to be true because they really, they're not just singing Jewish music, but they're singing music that's meaningful and has challenges to it. And they bring that hard work with them to the Jewish, to the Lewandowski, to the Zolzer, and to the other modern stuff. And I found it very rewarding. That was my way of really making Jewish music live, so that's, I don't know if that answers your question, but
it helps. I noted that Benjamin Meisner would like to ask a question. Would you unmute, Benny?
I just wrote you, Faithful, that you are my hero, and I'm saying it publicly. You are my hero and an idol and a legend. So we are in a big family here. We know most of each other. I've seen you since I was young, and you was even younger. I've seen you grow, and we always had a professional insight into a lot of things that we were privileged to be part of. I want to ask you a question. Never mind your fame and your singing and everything that you did. Teaching, of course, I remember the concert that you were at Holy Blossom when we did a concert for women's cantors, and Jill Higgins and Baz Barak was here, and when you come to teach women coaching, with a vocal difference, to my taste, you're one of the few females who can do the chazonic kind of, I wouldn't say krechts, because the chazonic way. I mean, because you had great mentors like Genshoff and Jackie and others, even Alter. But when you teach a female cantor to do a traditional way, not in a diva kind of operatic, what is the difference when you teach a woman or when you coach any other person?
Thank you, Benny. I love you. Less is more. God is not hard of hearing. There's no need to prove anything. I would say this to the men too. That there can be much more effective communication through a beautiful mezzo piano, not sung like I'm going to prove to you why I should win this opera competition. Like there's a certain it's a question of vibrato. It's a question of speaking the Hebrew or the English or the Aramaic or the Yiddish. If you're going to sing the famous Milner in Cheder, you could say, come here, little boy, come look at the little letters. come here a little bit. Und du gucken die kleine Äußerlich, teure Äußerlich, gilderne Äußerlich, Gicher, Gicher, komm her. If you just pick it up and go, oh, I can sing this piece of music. What is this piece of music? Komm her, Jingelene, hinter zu mir, und du gucken die kleine Äußerlich. It's like, shut up! What are you screaming? So, I think a lot of us have felt that more was more. And it's the little tiny place of expression. We learned this from Yasala Rosenblatt. It's riveting, and then Hashem is there. Is that too simple?
Maybe I can ask Zoe from her experiences as in a UK cantor in a large congregation who went through the teaching. What was it like for you, and what did you take into your congregation, and how receptive were they to what you do? Did you have to mold them to you, or was it a marriage both ways, or how was it for you, Zoe?
First of all, hi, Faith. It is a gift to be with you. Alex, I'm going to respectfully, I think, try not to answer your 28 questions, because I'd rather hear from Faith than people hear from me. I think the one thing that I would just say, maybe in terms of what Faith was just talking about, and I think you're touching on it in your questions, is the idea that we are communicating text as cantors all the time, and that if we can communicate the text and teach our communities that that's what this is about, then it's a much easier piece of work. It opens up doors and pathways in all sorts of ways, and that's totally something that certainly I learned from Faith, and I think that's the distinction between a singer and a cantor. And I love that example, Faith, of In Cheder, because you definitely taught me to sing that song, but you didn't teach me to sing it. You taught me to communicate it, to express it, essentially to act it. And in that case, it's a song you can act, because I don't think of that necessarily as liturgy. But in liturgy, how do we do that? How do we communicate the message? How do we reach people? Through expressing the text. Some people have extraordinary vocal gifts to do that. Others of us have to find other ways to do it. But I think that's the key, and I think that's what Faith teaches.
Zoe, that's so eloquent.
I couldn't agree with you more, Zoe. And I didn't mean to put you on the spot, but I thought you'd come out with something like that, and I appreciate it. Thank you. Meryl, you got a chance of saying something from your old school friend.
So, no, I mean, I've just been kvelling, the entire time, because I adore her. I've adored her, my whole life. She was so dynamic, in high school. I was in a Jewish school, which was very demanding. So I was less and less in the choir. But I always looked to Faith as the high standard. She really got a lot of respect, just even from her peers, not so much the cantors. Beth Torah was a hub of Chazanut, and they had amazing concerts, the best of the best of the best. And this is what we were exposed to, and it's a lifelong love of the liturgy, the liturgical piece. It just gives just a rich dynamic to your life. And I see that Faith also tweaks pieces to make it really, really smooth. She just glides. through the piece. It's just really smooth, and it's very calming, very calming. But I have really enjoyed this today. This is an amazing treat to see Faith, in person, because she's in New York and I'm here. But I'm still in our community, and we have 4 children of cantors here. We have David Bagley's son, who does my glasses. We have, of course, Eric Kusevitsky, Moshe's grandson. We have Jerry Glantz, Lieb Glantz's son. And who's the last one, Alex? Oh, the one that was in Aventura, Alex.
Shuloff.
Moshe Schulhoff's son is still in North Miami Beach. So it's nice to see the 4 of them around town. When I am concerned about the cantorate, and it's a struggle to maintain it as a career path. And I'm wondering, Faith, what you see as the future of the cantorate.
Thank you, Beryl.
Hey, Beryl. The future of the cantorate, I think is there are many talented young cantors. I think more than there ever have been. The energy that each one may or may not show in finding what they can grow in their individual communities. That's the difference. The future of the cantorate is in how much each of us can grow our little plot of land. How to keep the plants blooming, whatever it takes. I mean, these days with Zoom, it's been strangely a blessing to be able to get together with people and to coach, to make music, well, not together.
I love it.
Right, but there's a great future for the cantorate, and I think a lot of cantors are becoming spiritual leaders or Rav Chazan, just to make sure that they can do it their way. And
Well,
Thank
there's
you.
no competition there.
Can I invite Neil Schwartz to ask your question, Neil?
Thanks.
Thank you. Faith, how wonderful to reconnect after all the ways that we have intersected, not just through the Choral Festival, but when I'll never forget you and David doing the Yiddish piece with the Philadelphia Cantors Ensemble. One of my top memories of those years and living in Reading and singing with them in Philadelphia. I am the 3rd time now in a Kolbo, the 1st time after 40 years in a Reform synagogue. And what I am struggling with, I'll be retiring in 7 months and I have a textbook to write at that point. I am totally at a loss with the fact that so many congregants, conservative Reform, even one member of my own family, which surprised me, even though he understands Hebrew extremely well, is that so many people not only don't understand the text, but when they do understand the text, they find that it doesn't speak to them. And it breaks my heart, and it is driving me crazy with, I've got a lifetime of training of how to do exactly what you were saying, which is express and communicate the text. But if the text itself isn't working, oy vey, what are we doing here? So I'm just curious what your thoughts are about this at this point in your career, having been with you for the majority of both of our careers off and on.
It's a great question you ask, Neil, because depending on which movement you're in and which siddur you're using, there are alternatives. For instance, to the particularistic Aleinu and Shelo Asanu Kigoye Ha'aratzot, which at the end of a service makes people a little uncomfortable. So there are other options in liberal synagogues. There are lots of contemporary Jewish songs today which applaud us for questioning. The idea of arguing with God over God's existence. God allegedly likes that. So there's a, what does this have to do with me? I love that because it's a challenge for us to get in there and make it real for them. There's something, you turn it again. There's something in what we have for everyone. And maybe, Aleinu isn't it. So anyway, I'm not the liturgist, but I do love liturgy, and I think that for every maybe problematic moment about perhaps asking God to pour God's wrath upon those who know you not, I'm thinking of the Seder. There are alternatives. So I don't know. I think we each have to find our own comfort zone and our personal halacha.
Thank you, Neil, and thank you, Faith. Robert Brody, you wanted to ask a question?
Yes, thank you. It's more a comment perhaps than a question, but I've so much enjoyed listening to you, Faith. I don't think we've interacted at all before, but it was really enlightening to hear. And the way you sang Rosa de Shabbos, I think it was better than the original, because one of my pet hates is when people sing the music, they sing the notes, but not the music. They're so busy singing the notes that you're missing the point of the expressionism and the musicality of the piece. There used to be a television program in England called about the rag trade called Never Mind the Quality, Feel the Width. And I feel that so much chazanus is never mind the quality, feel the height. And so often people will worry about singing a big top note at the end, which is out of the line of the music, it's out of the register of the music, it's out of the flow of the music, and it's often out of their vocal range and their vocal register. So it was so nice to hear your musicality being given prime concern in the way you're singing and the way you're talking about Hazanut. So thank you so much. It was lovely to hear you.
Thank you.
I think Neil is touching on a subject that is a very huge subject. It's the cantors are doing all they can. There's nothing wrong with what the cantors are doing, but it's the people surrounding them. It's the community, it's the lay leaders, it's the rabbi, it's the competition from other things to attract children. And coming back to what Alex has said, I'm wondering if the idea of appointing a music director in each synagogue, whether that's a congregant, a lay leader, cantor, a professional musician, or somebody else, just somebody to take notice of what music is being done in your synagogue, and maybe communicating with the music director of other synagogues, whether this is a new role we need to introduce into synagogues. What would you think about that?
There used to be a role for director of music. Places like Park Avenue Synagogue had Neil Robinson as the organist, but also as the conductor of the choir. Who's doing the hiring and firing of the choir, if there's a professional choir? Who is rehearsing the choir? in Reform congregations, many times there is a music committee or a worship committee or a ritual committee where there is a person who is the head of that committee who can represent, like you said. In other places, those committees have been disbanded, and it's the rabbi. So who is the director of music? It's been in my contract many times, and a good number of times there's been another person who was the director of music. So at Baltimore Hebrew congregation, my organist was the director of music. So I don't, and it didn't take anything away from me. I mean, again, it's a power play or something like that, I think.
Yep. Thank you. I mean, it would be interesting for you to give a little paragraph, not now, of the ideal director of music in a synagogue, what qualities they should have and what their role could be. I think that would be really helpful, certainly for us, to take things forward. Because I don't think it's just cantors talking to each other that's going to improve anything. We have to be talking to outside. And I say we, I mean, I'm not a cantor. So I think this has been a really stimulating and wonderful session. We've heard much about you. A lot of people are your friends, but some of us have never heard of you or heard you before. And it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you, Alex, for bringing faith into this forum and for showing us what treasure she is and what treasure she's brought to everybody. And thank you to everybody who's commented and made suggestions or thoughts, produced your thoughts. And thank you, as ever, to Alex for driving this and for keeping Chazanut and the way of presenting music in synagogue at the forefront of our minds all the time. And if I may also thank Russell for helping to make these things work and go smoothly. It's a lovely team, and we hope we will meet you all again soon.
2 weeks' time, we have another dear friend of mine, Debbie Catchko-Gray, and she's going to speak about her career, her influences, and hopefully about her grandfather, who we today owe so much to. So if you want to join us on the 5th of January, please do so. Everybody is welcome. Please tell your friends. And I've noticed today some new faces, and I welcome our new faces, and I hope that we see you again, because every time you join us, you become a member of what we love to say is the ECA family. The ECA family is a family that's unaffiliated. We are independent, and everybody who joins us has a voice. Everybody is welcome. Doesn't matter what background you come from. You don't have to. We just want you to love us, enjoy us, have your say, and promote liturgy, good liturgy, whether it's the old great stuff from the Blue Book or the new modern stuff that is written today from people like Debbie Freeman and Beth Stiles and so on and so forth. Every bit of music has a place in our hearts, in our synagogue. If it's written in the right way, it serves a purpose of getting people together, because the greatest language we have that brings everyone closer and closer is our music. We should never forget it. We should embrace it. And we should all, please God, be together, sing together. And what I said before about a new piece of music for all of us to be together, to sing together at our next convention in Budapest, that is what I'm aiming for. That is what I want. And I would love everybody who can possibly come, be there and make it happen. And it will make an old man very, very happy.
or Maine, as we should say. And thank you again to Faith, Alex, Russell, and everybody who's participated, and look forward to seeing you in 2 weeks' time.